name is Taylor, and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. And today we will be previewing the Cup Series debut at Road America for the Jockey Made in America 250, presented by Kwik Trip. A long name, I know, and we also have some NASCAR updates and hot takes to get to, but today I'm not doing it alone. I'm joined again by my friend Justin Seger from Dipstick Debates over at Racing Refresh to break this all down. Welcome back, Justin, to Above the Yellow Line, and are you ready to dive into today's news and updates?
Oh, I'm always ready. I love the news that we're going over this week, so I'm ready.
Yeah, you got lucky. We have a lot of good stuff to talk about. Now, news from last week. This is a pretty Penske-heavy day, hence the Penske hat here, but we're talking first about some really juicy news here with Brad Keselowski moving over to Roush Fenway Racing. Reported by Dustin Long, it's pretty much confirmed in a done deal that Brad Keselowski is joining their team as a driver and owner in 2022. The deal hasn't been announced by either team, though, and according to Roush Fenway Racing, they are not announcing it right now out of respect for Team Penske. When they're ready to announce it, they will. We don't know who's going to drive the number 2 yet. There's a lot of unknowns with this as the dominoes kind of start to fall, and we know a lot of drivers are relying on this news. So let's theorize this a bit, Justin, because there's a lot to talk about. And this doesn't just affect Penske and Roush Fenway Racing. This also really affects what we see at Wood Brothers Racing, too. We don't know if that's a done deal with Austin Cindric Racing there next season as we kind of switch up the teams here. So I want to ask a few questions for you, put you on the hot seat real quick. So first question for you is, who do you think we're going to see driving the Penske number 2? And tying in that in, how do you think this is going to affect the Wood Brothers Racing team?
Well, honestly, I think the Wood Brothers racing team is going to get the least amount of changes out of this. I think Matt DiBenedetto is going to end up staying in the 21. You've got an opening up at Penske, and Tim Cindric, Austin's father, is the president of Penske. I think that Austin Cindric's going to be driving the number 2 next season. I wasn't fully on board with that when they first came out with it, but as I've heard more about things unfold, I think that's probably how things are going to wind up.
I actually agree with you here. Any theory that you just gave, I agree with. I know we've seen in the past, and I've talked about this on the show before, it's nothing new to have a Wood Brothers driver move over to Penske. We saw that especially recently with Ryan Blaney when he moved over to the team. But I feel like Matt has a really good home right now and a really good position with Wood Brothers. You know, I think they're going to, with the new crew chief change and everything, I think that's where he needs to stay. And I love Matt, but I don't know if he's perfectly fit to drive the championship caliber team that is the number 2 that Brad Keselowski has made so incredibly famous, in my opinion. So I think things are going to change there, but where we really don't know with the Roush Fenway Racing team, we don't know where Ryan Newman's going. We don't know if Brad's taking over his ride. We don't know about Chris Buescher either, and he got more sponsorship to the team, but we don't know if he's staying with that team. So I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit here with what you think is going to happen. Do they add another car? Kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Quite frankly, I think Brad Keselowski is going to be taking over the 6. I think Ryan Newman finds another home, perhaps. My ideal spot would be Chip Ganassi Racing with the 1. I think that would be a good place for him to maybe get a last good run of his career. Honestly, though, I think it's maybe more of a front row racing type deal, maybe a lower tier team. But I think Ryan Newman stays in the Cup Series, but not in the 6.
I'm with you on not staying in the 6. I really haven't been able to think far ahead as to which ride he could take. I never actually thought about Chip Ganassi as an option. We know that Kurt Busch is weighing his options there, and it seems likely that he'll go to another team, which is probably going to be 2311 as they're looking to open another team, another spot, another charter potentially. But I never thought about him and Chip Ganassi. That's very interesting. I kind of thought a little bit about Front Row Motorsports as to where he could end up. And the other thought in my brain, which I don't think Ryan Newman's done yet, he's definitely not. He still has drive. He still has passion. He is still a very good driver. I think it could be an issue of forced retirement, but I'm not sure yet. He's been very vocal that he doesn't really know what's going to happen, but he's not given up. And I hope he does not. But let's end the theories there. I don't know if there's more to talk about until we get some more concrete news. And let's go into more Team Penske news because there's more changes on the team. If they have one thing, it's another. Because following this week, actually, I believe it was today or yesterday on Monday. I believe it was Monday. Todd Gordon announced on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio saying that he is done after the season. He is retiring. He said that it was a family-based decision, and I totally respect that. And first off, I think we have to thank Todd Gordon for all he's done with the sport. He's been in the sport for 23 years total. He spent 7 years in the Xfinity Series as a crew chief, and then 10 years as a crew chief in the Cup Series, working with Penske since 2011, Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. It's been an insane few years for Team Penske as they've done a crew chief changeup. But I want to also kind of question, what does this mean for Ryan Blaney's team? Is this a good thing or bad thing in your mind for Ryan Blaney? And is this something that he'll struggle with?
Personally, I could see Jeremy Bullins going back to Ryan Blaney since we've got a new pairing coming to the two team anyway. Maybe Austin Cindric's crew chief or spotter goes to his crew chief goes back, comes up to Cup with him since they already have that pairing in Xfinity. I think it'd be a good move for him to do that and just send Jeremy Bullins back with Ryan Blaney. They've had success together. And with Brad Keselowski leaving, I think Jeremy Bullins stays with Penske.
That's what I was wanting to see. And I actually did some digging and some research, as I do with all of these podcasts, an extensive amount. And I couldn't find any information because I was curious to see if Austin Cindric's crew chief now was going to move up with him, and I couldn't find any information on it. So that's what I think should happen and what I would like to happen, because Ryan Blaney is comfortable with Jeremy Bullins. They already have teamwork in place, and they did fairly well when they were together. Yet again, this could be another opportunity to bring someone else in and kind of raise the stakes for Ryan Blaney, see what more we can do with Ryan, because I do think he has the potential to be a championship winning driver. I think he has more potential than we're seeing right now. So it could be a good change for Ryan Blaney, but we'll have to see in the next coming weeks. And this is lots of rumors, lots of speculation. We're going to move on talking about a lot of more changes with another kind of hot take rumors updates that's in question right now. We got the next gen car coming into the picture next year. We also have some rumors about a new manufacturer coming into the sport that I wanted to mention in this podcast, but I want to wait until things get more concrete, until we have some more speculations to make with that. So we also have news that iRacing announced Tuesday will be an official partner of NASCAR as the sport is moving into an electric direction. And Justin, that brings me into what I want to talk about next. NASCAR is looking to present an electric division in the future, maybe the next few years. We're not sure, but Ford Performance Global Director Mark Rushbrook mentioned in an article that I found, I'm going to link it in the description below on autoweek.com, that they're future-proofing the next-gen car to enable hybrid driving in the future. So that could bring some little electricity to the Cup Series in the future, though Steve Phelps does not suspect that they will go fully electric, but he says that an exhibition series is something that they might consider. Before we talk about our thoughts, I want to add this quote too, because I think this might be an important piece to add into our discussion here about the fan perspective. We know NASCAR has been struggling a bit with views, and though we've seen an upswing in the past few weeks, Pocono kind of took a hit in viewership with TV. Track attendance was very good at Pocono. Steve Phelps admits that NASCAR, quote, had probably lost our way at some point over the past decade. He also admits, quote, I think we're trying to search for that next generation fan, and I don't think we listened to what the hardcore fans wanted. In saying that, Justin, do you think the electric series, and not just what your opinion with that quote, but do you think it's a good direction to go in? Is it inevitable? What are your thoughts on the kind of theory that's coming out there?
I don't think it's inevitable that NASCAR goes electric. I think the exhibition series is actually a great idea to test it. We can run an exhibition series if they want to. Maybe not get all the drivers, but maybe 15 or 20 of the Cup drivers, or maybe even some Xfinity and truck guys. Get them to race together in electric cars and see if it gets fans interested in it. I know one of the big things that fans are concerned about is the noise. You go to a NASCAR race and you really hear the loud engines and you hear the roar, and I think a lot of people are worried that electric cars are going to take that away. So I think it's worth trying.
I am a little bit of a skeptic here, and I know last podcast we talked about the new fan perspective with when it came to race length. We talked about kind of your older fan perspective with wanting to keep races along as they are. And here's where my brain kind of shifts. I think we have to be careful when we try this idea. I think we have to try it. We can't go full force with it yet, because I have a feeling and I have a worry that it's going to further alienate older fans, because I love the sound, like you mentioned, Justin. I love the sound at the track, and that was really what really hooked me into NASCAR when I was sitting in the stands, Kentucky Speedway 2017, first in-person race. The first thing that I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. The sound of the engines, drivers start your engines. And, if we go electric, we don't really have that. And that's a little bit of a bummer. And, and then also I think about strategy too. When you have an electric car, how does strategy come into play? Because in my opinion, the most exciting strategy races are a fuel strategies race. So we got to be careful about it. There are a lot of logistics to work out. Of course, it is a theory right now. So NASCAR's talking about it. They're discussing it as a potential, but we'll have to see what comes in the next few years. And I'm sure this will happen. I'm sure we'll get that extra exhibition series. I don't think it'll carry over heavily into all the others, like for the near future, the future as well. But I think it's interesting. I think it's worth a shot, a try. But that is most of the news for now that we have this week as we are recording. Now, Justin, I want to break up the playoff picture with you because we have 7 races left in the regular season, and we see kind of the picture shaping up. And I thought this would be a really fun discussion to talk about, kind of get your point of view on the picture right now. I want to ask you, are there any surprise drivers that are in the playoffs, or a lot of drivers that are outside the playoff even that we don't see in the picture at the moment?
Michael McDowell is definitely, he was a surprise, after all, but I knew if he were to get a win, it would be at Daytona and the plate tracks that he's really good at. Christopher Bell is, slightly a surprise to me, because I wasn't expecting him to get a win as soon as he did. Outside the bubble, I would say, honestly, with the season he's had, I know he's only like 4 points below, but Chris Buescher, I really would like to see him get into the top 16 just because I think he's been doing so well. But I have a soft spot for Kurt Busch as well.
Yeah, I love Kurt Busch. I'm so excited he's in the playoffs. And I think those were the few drivers that I didn't think of. And like I thought Christopher Bell, and I was like, well, yeah, of course he's in. But at the same time, Daytona Road Course, none of us expected to win from him right off the bat. And of course, he had that crew chief with Adam Stevens now in his pit box. So that right there was a pretty good connection. And the rest of the season, he's been doing pretty good. He's been doing okay. The JGR as a whole is kind of, I think, struggled the past few weeks, and then Kyle Busch picked up the slack right away. But the drivers I'm shocked about in a positive way, that would be Daniel Suarez with a new team at Trackhouse. He's 18th in standings, 48 points behind the cutoff line. That is incredibly impressive for a new team. And I would also say, and I know some people might disagree with me, but Bubba Wallace actually has impressed me, though he has had a bad luck this season, and I've talked about the bad luck. We all have, but being able to be 20th in points with just like I keep saying, not good luck, is something to be pretty proud of. I mean, he has grit, and he's 54 points down, tied with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who I thought has had a really good season so far. So if we're weighing that out, actually he's been doing not terribly, not super bad. He's not been able to really finish where he's run until Pocono, where he kind of played out the strategy game. But still, that's been pretty good. I also, Chris Buescher, I've been shocked actually at how well he has done this season. And then I'm also shocked in a bad way. Now we're going to get to the bad with Eric Almirola, because we usually see him in the playoff picture. Justin, he is 27th in points, and we usually playoff contender. There's 30 teams right now that are on the playoff standings. What are your thoughts? I know, like, this is not to get into the negative here. Everyone's talked about Eric Almirola's season, but do you think he has the potential to win? I guess is the question I'm wanting to ask here.
Yes, and I think Eric Almirola is one that I would like to see win and shake up the playoff picture here. Eric Almirola has one key place that he can win at, and that is Daytona. The Daytona night race, when his back is up against the wall, and our last race before the playoffs is the Daytona night race. I think there are 2 drivers to look out for, and that would be Eric Almirola and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I think both of them have the capability to win at Daytona, and they can punch their ticket to the playoffs.
So the next question I was going to ask, and I think you answered it there, unless you if you have a change up of an answer, is everyone always talks about which driver needs a win to get in. I mean, that's every driver. So I wanted to ask you which drivers you think would shake up the playoff standings, but I'm assuming they are Eric Almirola and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Or do you have someone else to add to that mix?
Another one that I would add would actually be Bubba Wallace, and again, it would be at Daytona. I think a lot of the guys that are below the cut line their key point to win would be Daytona. I think a lot of the races we have up until then will be won by guys that are already in the playoffs. But Daytona is a place where anyone can win.
I think Daytona is going to be interesting because I think a lot of the drivers already in the point standings are going to have in their brain, do not let someone new win. It's going to be a battle between I got to get in and we got to shut everyone else out. I think that'll be a fun concept to kind of play around with in that race. I will say for me, with the question I posed to you, would the drivers that I want to shake out the standings, they're more drivers I want to actually contend for a win and I think have a shot to contend for a championship. Maybe not the actual championship title, but actually make their way a little bit farther in the standings and in the playoff picture. Those drivers, for me, I got to go with Chastain. I got to agree with you on Stenhouse. And then Daniel Suarez, actually, because like I said, they have a legit chance to make it farther, maybe past the first round. I know Michael McDowell, I think he might get knocked out in the first round. He could, and then those drivers I just mentioned could probably take someone's spot. And then also there could be a surprise factor. I know for me, the drivers I mentioned, Chastain, Stenhouse, Suarez, they're gutsy drivers, in my opinion, and they're going to do what it takes, especially Ross Chastain, sometimes to his own detriment. But I think with Ross Chastain in particular, I think he can knock out some pretty impressive drivers that are already in the playoffs when it comes to that time and knock them out in the first round that we did not expect. And though we're in for a surprise when it comes to drivers who will win the championship, because I'm actually predicting, Justin, it's not going to be the most dominant driver we're seeing this season. But I want to ask you, if you have right now, we're already more than halfway through the season, if you have a championship pick that you're comfortable with right now, and if you're willing to kind of share the reason why.
I'm going to say my championship pick, and this is not because he's my favorite driver, but I am going to go with Martin Truex Jr. There's a little bias there, but the reason why he's had a bad summer, but typically he does well in the playoffs. And one thing that I really think can get Truex a championship is anytime he returns to a track that he got his first win at, he usually gets his second win there as well. For example, he did that with Richmond. He's done that with Martinsville. And he won Phoenix earlier this year. If he can get to the Final Four, I think he can get the win at Phoenix again. I think for him, getting to the Final Four is going to be the hard part.
I would say with Martin Truex Jr., don't count him out yet. Like Justin mentioned, rough summer, but he's definitely a contender for the championship. My thoughts, though, I don't know if he's going to be in the championship for this year. That is exactly the struggle, Justin, seeing if he's going to make his way in. My driver is someone I don't think we all would expect me to say, and I know in the Twitter spaces I've had on Twitter, this has actually been kind of the general consensus, but the driver I think is going to win the championship is not Kyle Larson on Hendrick Motorsports. It's going to be William Byron, and here is why. He is the most consistent driver in the field right now. He has had that top 10 hot streak. Unfortunately, it broke, but nevertheless, consistency is going to get you someplace, and it's not always wins. We've seen the past few years, my buddy Dom Joseph actually on the Twitter space pointed it out, but the past few seasons of racing, the most dominant drivers have not won the championship. Last year, Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick fell short. The driver who we didn't really expect to win the championship, Chase Elliott, starting in the back of the pack at Phoenix, went through the field, won the championship. I go back to even 2018 when Joey Logano won the championship. That was the big 3-year, Justin, with Truex, and we had Kyle Busch, and we had, was that Denny Hamlin in the championship? Harvick, thank you. It was Harvick, yes. And none of them won. It was the dark horse Joey Logano, and that just goes to show it doesn't always mean wins are going to get you the championship. So I think that is why I think William Byron has a fair shot, because he has the consistency on his side no matter which track he is at. And he's learning from his teammates too, and I think that's also very dangerous. He's seeing what Larson's doing right and wrong. I think he has a fair shot. So we'll have to see how well he does. The issue with him too was also, can he get to that championship 4? And at this point, the points reset when we get to that. I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. But that is all the news of the theorizing that we have for this episode. Let's go into our pre-race talk for our debut at Road America, the Jockey Made in America 250 presented by Kwik Trip. And it's the Cup Series debut at the track. Let's talk track facts this weekend, schedule some Road America chatter, and our race winning picks, starting with the layout of the race as follows. The track length is 4 miles. It has 14 turns. The race length is 62 laps or 250 miles. Stage 1 is 14 laps. Stage 2 is 15 laps. And the final stage is 33 laps. And this weekend, practice and qualifying, thank goodness they're back. We have practice Saturday at 2:35 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN if you want to check that out. Also, we have qualifying right before the race on Sunday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday. And of course, Justin, we know Sunday is a holiday. We have the 4th of July, Independence Day. There's a lot of holiday races this season. We have Mother's Day, Father's Day. We're going to have Halloween too. And we know that this race used to be a Daytona race. And a lot of the speculation I'm hearing right now, we have Road America, very American, America's in the name. But do you like the schedule change that they made, having the road course instead of the Daytona race being on the state?
Well, in terms of 4th of July, I would rather have the Daytona night race again, just because, the old Firecracker 400, they talk about that all the time. But I would also rather have the Daytona night race be the final race before the playoffs. So, you can't have both. Road America will be an interesting track. I also enjoyed Indianapolis, actually, just because, it's the Brickyard. It's a big venue, but I would say Road America is a good fit. We'll see more this weekend.
Yes, definitely going to be one of those races where you kind of have to see it before you judge it. And I'm erring on the side of I like Daytona in that spot, but I'm also aware I really want to see a surprise winner going into the playoffs to shake everything up. So if you think you're safe going into that race and going into the playoffs in points, you're kind of not if you don't have a win yet. So I think that'll be fun to see. And with Road America, the sport isn't a complete stranger to that track. We have the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series who have raced there recently as well. And Justin, I want to ask you, because I haven't really kept up in previous years with Road America and the Xfinity and Truck Series. With your knowledge, if you can kind of backtrack it a little bit and tell the viewers and tell me especially, like, what racing can we expect at Road America, and what do you think will carry over to the Cup Series this weekend?
I think it's going to be a combination of past Xfinity and truck races along with this season. It's going to be unexpected. I don't think this is, a lot of people thought with all these road courses, oh, Chase Elliott's going to run away with a lot of wins. I don't think we can just guarantee that. I think guys like Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, I think Tyler Reddick, they all have an advantage because they're former Xfinity guys. AJ Allmendinger and Austin Cindric are both going to be in the field. That's going to be a threat to them. Ross Chastain's a former Xfinity driver as well. They all have that experience at Road America. So I think they're going to be in contention a little bit more than maybe someone like Chase Elliott or even, Denny Hamlin or Kyle Busch.
I would agree with you there. And I'm actually going to mention that in a second because there is some truth to that. The young guns, the drivers in the Truck and Xfinity Series that I've raced there before are going to have an advantage over the veterans in the field. I can feel that this weekend. With the Xfinity Series, we got to talk driver stats. And of course, the Cup guys have not all been there. So I'm going to look at the Xfinity cars, the Xfinity past races, to pull some stats from there because they're close enough to the Cup cars. Obviously, they are definitely not the same, but at least we can see some driver averages from that. So looking at this a bit, the highest averaging active Cup driver in the field with more than 3 starts in this track was Ross Chastain, actually, in the Xfinity Series, with an average finishing position of 17.4. Now, with 1 start, the highest averaging finisher is Ryan Blaney, who has an active finish of 2. So there's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of good averaging stats, but I thought I should mention those so we can kind of have the groundwork. And like I said, and like Justin mentioned, I think with the exception of Keselowski, who has raced at the track before, the young guys have an advantage this weekend. I am sure of it. We have practice and qualifying where they can figure it out, though, as much as they want. But I think experience is going to take the cake. And with that said, Justin, without giving your race-winning picks, do you think we could see a surprise winner this weekend, knowing some of the newer Cup Series have more experience than the veterans?
Yeah, I think we could. I definitely think, like I said, Cole Custer, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, the former Xfinity Big Three, they're going to have an upper hand. Anybody who's raced on Road America in the last 3 years or so is going to have an advantage over those who haven't, I think.
And so I guess with that said, let's go right into our race-winning picks this weekend with a race-winning pick and a garage pick. The challenge I'm going to give to you, Justin, and me too, is not to choose Kyle Larson because I think every week he has a fair shot. We saw the chances fade for him last week a little bit, but I think he's still going to do really well or even have the win this weekend, but just for fun. Let's start with our garage picks. And a garage pick, just so you know, it's someone you think might win, someone, it could be a dark horse, or someone you're going to pick because you're not confident with your race winning pick. So I'll give you the floor, Justin. Who is your garage pick and why?
I'm going to go with Ross Chastain. I think he did really well at COTA. He's a former Xfinity driver. He's been at Road America recently. He's aggressive. He needs a win to get in the playoffs, and I think he's going to be aggressive enough to do it.
I think I'm going to mention Ross Chastain in a little bit, but I think for my garage pick, I got to choose Ryan Blaney, and I could choose Austin Cindric, and I could choose AJ Allmendinger very easily. I think they have a fair shot, and we've seen Austin Cindric do really well on slick tires in the rain at COTA, which was gosh darn impressive. So I think he has a fair shot, but I got to go with Ryan Blaney for this one because he's shown strength at road courses, and I think he has another win in the works. He's been doing pretty decently these past few weeks, building up some momentum, and sometimes even outperforming his teammates on the road courses. Joey Logano's a really good road course racer as well. I think it's time that Team Penske does get another win, and I think if anyone, it could come from Ryan Blaney, so maybe a bit of a dark horse pick there. Maybe not, but I guess we'll see this weekend. Well, that leads us into the grand finale of our race-winning picks. Justin, I'll let you start with this one. Who do you think is going to take the cake this weekend at Road America?
I'm going to go with someone who, once again, former recent Xfinity driver. I'm going to go Tyler Reddick. He gets his first career Cup win. Again, he's been at Road. I know he's been at Road America, and I think that he finally gets it done.
Gosh, I want a Tyler Reddick win so bad. And he's also one I'm like, if he had a win to get in, boy, like just to solidify it, like that'd be awesome. My race winning pick, I got to go back to who you chose for your garage pick. I actually think Ross Chastain, there might be controversy whether this should have been my garage pick or not, but I think he has the potential to win this weekend if he makes the right risks. And I think last weekend proved he had a race winning car, potentially. He had a top 5 car, a top 3. He made a wrong choice, and it took him out of contention for that. He raced his way back, but still. So if he is smart, I think the Watermelon Man needs a watermelon on standby this weekend at Road America because I think he gets it done. I really do. And if not this race, at some point this season, I think he's going to bank his first win of the Cup Series. Well, those are our race picks. Let us know in the comments below who you have for this weekend. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. Tune into the Jockey Made in America 250 presented by Kwik Trip at Road America this Sunday, July 4th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN. But gosh, Justin, I have to thank you so much for being on the show yet again. It has been such an honor and such a fun time talking to you. I want to ask you before we go, is there anywhere else that the viewers can find your content, what you do outside of Above the Yellow Line?
Well, as I said in our last episode, you can find me on Twitter at dipstick_Justin. You can also find me at the Dipstick Debate show on the Racing Refresh YouTube channel and also Racing Refresh's website. I write articles for them giving updates on the upcoming NASCAR video games.
Ooh, well, that's fun. I'll have to check them out. And I love Dipstick Debates. Excited for you guys to come back. Again, thank you so much for being on the show. And you'll know where to find me, too. It's in the description below. All the links to my Twitter page for daily updates from the NASCAR world and weekly Twitter spaces I have for you guys to talk some NASCAR, build a community there. And also the Podium Finish, another great motorsports outlet where we talk driver interviews, pre-race, post-race. It is a fun time, so make sure you check that out in the description below. But not before you like and subscribe to this channel. Share this with your friends and family. And yet again, thank you all so much for supporting Above the Yellow Line. And until next time, we'll see you.